Monticello. Thomas Jefferson designed this house himself. He was a self-taught architect. When he was at college at the College of William and Mary, he studied law, but in his free time he studied architecture. And from Andrea Palladio's 4 books of architecture, he learned the basics and he drew the plans for this house. Now, he started construction around 1770, but the house wasn't officially completed until 1809. So that's almost 40 years later. He started this project in his 20s. He didn't get to move into a finished house until he was in his 60s. So definitely a lifelong effort for Jefferson getting this house just the way that he wanted. Do we have any suggestions for why it might have taken so long?
Busy.
Yeah, very busy, absolutely. He was being president of Virginia statute, governor of Virginia. He was minister plenipotentiary to France for 5 years. So he wasn't always here to oversee the project. Also, he changed his designs a lot. When he was just learning architecture at college, he designed a very architecturally sound house, but he said it wouldn't have been the most comfortable house to live in. He said he redesigned it with a greater eye for convenience than I had when I was younger. And also, that as he did some traveling through Europe, he saw all sorts of architectural designs he wanted to incorporate. So that was when the most changes were made when he got back from Paris. Doubled the size of the house. This was the first private residence in the United States with a dome on it. So you can see a lot of influence from his time in Paris in the house. Now, you can also see a lot about the way Jefferson's mind worked from the way he sets up his home. He's a very scientifically minded person. On the roof of the porch there, you'll see a compass. That compass is attached to a weather vane on the roof of the house, so Jefferson could just walk out in the porch in the morning, look up, and see what direction the wind was blowing from. Little to no inconvenience to him. It was pretty handy. He also, he's credited actually as one of the first weather observers of the United States. And on the 4th of July, 1776, really big day in Jefferson's history, he doesn't mention the Declaration of Independence in his journals, but we know it was 76 degrees that day. Above the door, you can see the exterior face of the great clock. Jefferson designed this clock himself as well. This kind of unusual clock. There's lots of little weird idiosyncrasies with this clock. For one thing, there's only one hand on the outside face, and it actually is according to Jefferson's designs for the clock. He saw for all of the functions he wanted the clock to accomplish, you didn't actually need a minute hand on the outside face, so he wasn't going to waste time with one if you didn't actually need it. You could get the gist of the time from the position of the hour hand. And when this clock strikes the hour, it doesn't just hit a chime, it's a loud Chinese gong. It's sent in from China, so everyone on the property could hear what time it was. Now, anybody notice anything else weird about the clock?
It's not according to the safe changing.
Yes. Well, for one thing, yeah, it's not the right time. But
it's not in the center. So
it's not in the center. Yeah, and that is
asymmetrical.
Yeah, it's asymmetrical, which is something that would absolutely have annoyed Jefferson. It's because there's 2 faces of the clock. There's an outside and an inside face. And there's no way to get both of those faces to line up and have both of them function. So one of them's just slightly off center. And he chose to have, rather than both of them be slightly off center, the face on the outside to be more. Yeah. And there's one tiny little weird detail, but you see the Roman numeral for 4? It's 4 eyes rather than IV. We're going to head a little bit closer, but before we go in, got a couple rules to get out of the way. If anybody's chewing any gum, I'm going to ask you to dispose of it in either of those 2 containers there. If you have a large bag or